If you've ever known someone who has given up drinking or another substance to live a sober life, you know it is a process, and it takes guts and it takes strength. And my next guest documented that whole process online. That, combined with being a first-generation daughter of Latinx immigrants, led Jessica Hoppe to write this book right here, First in the Family, a story of what the American dream means to her. Jessica joins me now. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is a brave journey, and it takes a lot of courage to admit you're an addict, number one. But you had another layer of this. Tell me how being an addict disrupted everything that your whole family knew about the American dream and what we believed and what we're programmed to believe.
Right, right. I've been in recovery for 8 years. For half of that time, I was in recovery anonymously, silently. And when I entered, I was very shocked. I was very confused, as was my family. And so I quickly understood that it had so much more to do than with eliminating the substance.
Right.
And I realized that I had been addicted for so long, probably since I can remember, to valuing myself and proving my value and my self-worth through my achievements. This has a lot to do, and if you're Latinx and you identify as Latinx, now is the time for Latinx Heritage Month. I'm sure you can identify with that pressure to pursue these excellence narratives, the model minority. And so the identity of an addict comes with a lot of stigma, a lot of stereotypes, especially for people of color. So it was a very scary thing to come forward with.
And as a woman, and all the archetypes that they're expected of you as a Latinx woman as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, it goes so deep. You also write that some families some will separate from their families when they get sober in order to heal. But that is not what you wanted, and I love this. It was important for your family to be a part of this, correct?
Absolutely. I really needed them. I'm very close, and I think I count myself as very lucky. So this isn't everyone's process, and I certainly understand if people need boundaries. Boundary work was very important to my recovery. I'm a big people pleaser, so I really want to make my parents happy. But I noticed that what I was learning in recovery and the way my family was talking about substance use disorder was so different.
Interesting.
And I really wanted to bridge that gap. I was like, there's a reason why we speak about it this way, even to each other and about each other, and the reality of substance use disorder.
And so when your grandfather died, sadly, from an alcohol-related disease, I mean, was that start of bridging that gap?
That was the moment. I told my family that I had an experience that led me to understand that I was suffering from substance use disorder, and I just kind of went in a corner and did what I needed to do.
Right.
That was the assignment. When my grandfather passed away, I was a couple months in, and it was very sad, but we had been estranged from him nearly all our lives, my mother as well, and the memory of him, you know, were not great memories. He had caused a great deal of harm, and that's very real. But when I understood, my mom opened up about his alcoholism, of course I leaned in. I wanted to know more. I did identify, it did open my heart, but more my curiosity. I really wanted to understand how this happened, because my parents were very confused. They don't drink. You know, the drinking wasn't in our home. They were actually very strict.
Right.
And
how does this happen?
Yes, they were like, we didn't raise you like this. You know, it was very defensive. And so that really opened the door for me to understanding, giving the substance use disorder and the legacy of pain that was being passed down generation after generation, and understanding how this process of self-medication is very prevalent, and it has specific consequences for people of color.
And who are not able to get to the resources that they need. And there's so much stigma around it, and you address all this in your book, and I'm so grateful that you did. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story and your bravery. And just a reminder, Jessica is holding an author event at Elliott Bay Book Company tonight, Wednesday, September 18th at 7 p.m.